¿Quién soy? ¿De dónde vengo? ¿Por qué estoy aquí? ¿Qué soy? ¿Quién me hizo? ¿Qué hay después de la muerte? Desde tiempos inmemoriales, el ser humano ha tratado de responder estas preguntas. Cada civilización ha creado diferentes corrientes de pensamiento tratando de responderlas. Mitologías, dogmas, religiones, dioses con características humanas, animales con características de dioses, teorías sobre seres que vinieron del espacio. Como seres conscientes de nuestra existencia, nos hemos dado cuenta de que faltan algunas piezas en el rompecabezas. El no tener solución a estas respuestas genera un vacío en algunos individuos, quienes tratan de llenarlo de diferentes maneras. Algunos se evaden, otros se aferran a alguna religión, unos más se embarcan en una búsqueda infinita durante toda su vida sin encontrar una respuesta satisfactoria. Debido a la evolución natural de la humanidad, han nacido cada vez más seres humanos que no se conforman con las respuestas heredadas. Si estás viendo esto, es probable que tú seas uno de ellos. ¿Qué pasaría si te dijera que existe una biotecnología capaz de expandir tus capacidades de percepción que te permitirá responder esas preguntas? 5-MeO-DMT, la molécula del todo. El ciclo infinito de esta historia comienza cada año con el suave acariciar de los vientos del norte en el desierto de Sonora. Algunas señales nos indican reminiscencias de la temporada pasada. Las plantas del desierto se mueven en delicadas danzas que anuncian la llegada del monzón, como se conoce la temporada de lluvias en el desierto. El tiempo de sequía ha terminado. Débiles lluvias intermitentes preparan la fauna y flora del desierto para el evento más importante del año. Bajo la tierra, una criatura extraordinaria duerme esperando ser despertada. La caída de la noche invita a los moradores a hacer sus actividades cotidianas. Debido al descenso de la temperatura, el desierto se convierte en un territorio muy transitado, lo cual significa para los predadores grandes cantidades de comida y tiempo de apareamiento. Ha sido casi un año de sequía. En el ambiente se perciben aires de abundancia. Pero aún no están todos. El primer trueno alerta a miles de criaturas que duermen bajo la tierra. Las vibraciones penetran el árido suelo. El Bufo Alvarius, el sapo del desierto de Sonora, ha despertado una vez más. Tiene prisa por salir, pues uno de sus competidores, el sapo retiformis, un sapo de menor tamaño, ya se alimenta desde hace días en los alrededores.
The toad, we're speaking of the Sonoran Desert toad, aka Bufo Alvarius. It's the largest toad in North America. They get pretty big. A miraculous creature that lives underground for 9 months out of the year and then just comes out for 3 months to procreate and refill its food. Happens to be the source of a very important medicine that people seems to be recently rediscovering.
Are you familiar with the toad?
Which has the power to, frankly, change your life.
I smoked this, this medicine, drug, whatever you want to call it. And I've never been the same. I look at life different. I look at people differently.
What is it?
Yeah, what you're talking about is 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine. Oh, that's it right there, yeah.
Well, toad medicine is the squeezing of the glands of the Alvarius, toad.
It's an entheogen, which means it's a compound capable of inducing a mystical or spiritual experience.
Toads of certain species produce a relative of DMT in large glands in their necks.
This particular toad has a methylates bufotonin to create 5-MeO-DMT. There are 485 species of bufo toad on the planet. All of them have bufotonin as their venom, except the Bufo Alvarius.
It's pretty spectacular. It's reasonable to suppose that then this is just a defense that has been evolved. Some of you may have seen the dinosaur in Jurassic Park that spits poison in your face. We're talking something like that.
All toads produce a form of DMT that is 5-OH-DMT or bufotenine, and with the Sonoran Desert toad it produces 5-MeO-DMT in addition to the bufotenine.
Just makes it particularly unique.
The toad creates this 5-methoxy-DMT in this gland, and when the glands are squeezed, it comes out on the surface of the toad's skin.
And that secretion, usually dried on a glass, and then scraped as a powder into a pipe and smoked.
It's a near relative of DMT.
Well, 5-MeO-DMT is a form of tryptamine psychedelic molecule.
But it's also of the same family as serotonin, which is a brain hormone, which is the way psychedelics are able to work because they are part of the same family.
And what's really interesting about 5-MeO-DMT is that, like DMT, it's produced naturally inside the human body. It's actually produced inside all mammals, so it's something that all of us have within us, and it functions as a very powerful neurotransmitter.
El cerebro humano está equipado con receptores para absorber la serotonina. Debido a la similitud estructural que existe entre esta y el 5-MeO-DMT, la corteza cerebral la absorbe inmediatamente.
So when this is ingested from an exterior source, such as smoking it or vaporizing it, it very quickly, very, very rapidly produces the most radical altered state of consciousness that is available for human beings to experience.
¿Pero qué pasa al interior de nuestro sistema al ser absorbida? ¿Qué es lo que pasa en nuestro cerebro?
Esta sustancia se une a los mismos receptores que utiliza la serotonina para regular la actividad del cerebro. Porque la serotonina no solo es un neurotransmisor, un medio por el cual corren las señales del cerebro, también es un neuromodulador, esto es, controla la actividad de las distintas partes del cerebro.
Do I have to tell what a receptor is? Or receptor is a protein that senses things, chemicals. And once it senses them, it initiates responses within neurons or cells. So it's a trigger. It's a chemical trigger.
Al bloquear la dimetitriptamina estos receptores, la serotonina se libera y suelta ese yugo que tiene sobre las distintas regiones. Es por eso que bajo la experiencia de sustancias psicodélicas basadas en la dimetitriptamina lo que sentimos es como se incrementa nuestra capacidad cerebral porque llegamos a hacer uso de partes, o más bien dicho, de combinaciones de partes que normalmente no nos está permitido, porque la serotonina como neuromodulador, su objetivo ha sido el poder nosotros mantener una atención consciente con un objetivo de supervivencia. Entonces es ahora en estos tiempos que hemos descubierto que podemos soltar eso y podemos tener una capacidad mental muchísimo más ampliada de la que normalmente tenemos gracias a estas sustancias.
Vamos a ponerlo así. Este es el cerebro humano. Está compuesto por diferentes regiones. Cada región sirve para cosas distintas. Estas moléculas funcionan como interconectores que prenden y apagan diferentes combinaciones de regiones. Usualmente, el cerebro humano está bajo los efectos del conector 5HT, más conocido como serotonina. Esta configuración es la que nos mantiene en modo alerta, automático y de supervivencia. Ahora, cuando el 5-meo DMT está rigiendo la configuración del cerebro, se apagan algunas regiones y se activan otras que elevan las capacidades de percepción y entendimiento. Debido a la falta de información, mucha gente confunde el 5-meo DMT con el DMT contenido en el brebaje ayahuasca. Pero, ¿cuáles son las diferencias?
Functionally speaking, DMT and 5-meo DMT express activity at different rates at different receptors.
So 5-MeO DMT is 5-methoxydimethyltryptamine. So it's related to psilocybin and DMT, but it has a little additional molecular combination there.
The main difference is structural. 5-MeO DMT has a methoxy group, the meo, on the 5th carbon on the indole ring.
In my talks, basically, I describe DMT as operating at the 6th chakra. At the 6th chakra, everything that's imaginable is available. All the visions, all the gods, all the goddesses, all the paradises, the palaces. The beauty of the entire universe and the horror is visually contained within the 6th chakra with DMT. And this is the place you can meet all the gods, all the goddesses, etc. But there's still a state of separation. There's still the observer and the observed, like this. When you reach the 7th chakra, which is where I believe 5-MeO DMT operates, this separation is removed.
In my experience and in many people's experience, there is this sense of unity consciousness. What does that mean?
The object and the observer become one. There's no more separation between anything.
Essentially, in my understanding, it means source consciousness does not differentiate, for instance, between the petals on a flower or the species or the individuals. It's the same source energy, the same field of being that is coming through when the ego filter drops and the frontal lobe cortex diminishes and the ego is no longer there.
One of the ways I like to describe is that within about 10 seconds you go from 0 to infinity. So if you imagine that you're at your normal baseline consciousness, within a number of seconds, everything very quickly expands and eventually envelops everything, the sense of complete unification with all of reality.
Well, you feel like you're part of the universe. When you're separate from your ego, you realize this whole thing, you're a part of this whole thing, and this whole thing is unstoppable. It's a gigantic, huge, all-encompassing, almost like a living thing.
And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe.
Es algo inexplicable que pues se puede decir que es un plan divino que ha quedado aquí en el desierto de Sonora.
There's a certain essence, the certain function that 5-MeO DMT seemingly has in us or for us, and that is the complete disruption of the egoic structure.
Bueno, tratar de ponerle palabras a lo inefable, a lo desconocido, es difícil.
So it's very hard to define it. And I feel resistance to do it. And I don't want to call it a sacrament, because I feel sacrament is something coming from religion, which this is not about.
Muchas personas, o sea, con comer un pedacito de pan quieren ver a Dios, pero este es más que eso, la medicina del sapito. Eso sí te lleva y te conecta perfectamente con Él.
¿Cómo defines tu encuentro con Dios, con el todo, ¿no?
Aunque una persona que no acepta a Dios, después de la medicina sabe que es Dios y lo acepta con amor.
Mi pequeño entendimiento aquí ahora es sentir que esta medicina, pues lo dijiste, no llega a cualquiera, no hay suficiente. Y sin embargo, somos miles los que estamos incorporando esta molécula maravillosa que es el DMT y la sensación de que esto es viral.
Se tiene que respetar porque aunque no venga, tal vez aunque no venga de Dios, pero tampoco le pertenece a una religión tampoco.
This is something different than medicines, so I don't want to associate it with the medicine, but yes, it heals us.
Algo divino que te pone en contacto con el todo, es algo superior, es algo muy superior, o sea, es algo incalculablemente superior a una droga o una medicina.
Y yo estoy comprendiendo que la medicina es para hacernos una limpieza de corazón, de pensamiento, de pensamiento. Cuando nacemos limpios, ¿sí?
For me, as with all medicines that come from Mother Earth, we are the medicine. These are what tap us back into the truth. These are the medicines that open up our sensories, our circulatory, our nervous, all of our different physical anatomy comes to life, our meridians. They open up the gateways to another understanding of our higher selves, our connection to source.
Te lleva a la posibilidad de asomarte a ese mundo mental.
Imagine that it's more than medicine. That you don't come to this, the toad, you don't come to this material as a wounded soldier, as a sick and dying person, as somebody that's seeking some type of healing, that more you're coming as a sovereign, whole, complete, healthy, conscious being, and you're entering into a sacred realm of perception, not so much to procure healing, more to touch the essence of your own being.
Ahora que hemos empezado a describir los efectos del 5-MeO-DMT y debido a que en algunos casos se produce de manera natural en el ser humano, podrás notar que ese efecto de unificación y expansión de conciencia ya ha sido descrito en diferentes culturas anteriormente.
Dentro de la antropología, este tipo de experiencias se pueden considerar como las experiencias místicas, experiencias de unidad.
The greatest illusion of this world is the illusion of separation. Things you think are separate and different are actually one and the same.
Samadhi, Nirvana, Satori, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, iluminación, autorrealización, son términos para determinar o definir que la mente ha alcanzado un estado muy elevado de consciencia.
We're all connected. Everything is connected.
That's right.
Bueno, una vez que terminamos de disolver el ego, es ahí donde pasamos al otro plano.
Donde puede ver el alma de las cosas, donde puede ir más allá.
El 5-MeO-DMT te da esa gran oportunidad, ¿no? De tengas o no un camino en esta práctica, te da la posibilidad de entender.
De malla, de las apariencias, de lo externo y penetrar en la misma esencia de las cosas.
De tener una idea, una pequeña idea de qué hay después de todo este plano físico.
Hemos pasado a lo largo de la historia por muchos tipos de búsquedas de experiencias religiosas, experiencias sensibles, experiencias estéticas. Y hoy en día nos encontramos en un momento en el que la humanidad busca experiencias especialmente intensas.
El plano que todos en algún momento han estado buscando, ya sea en religiones, en prácticas de ejercicio, hasta en dietas, en ayunos.
Experiencias de disolución del ego.
Una vez que pasas la última barrera es donde verdaderamente llegas a conocer y a sentir tu verdadera esencia.
Experiencias también que se han buscado a lo largo de la historia, pero que siempre han estado atadas a prácticas sumamente rigurosas, pero que hoy en día se nos brindan y se nos abren a través de las sustancias psicodélicas.
Existen varias maneras de obtener 5-meo-DMT. Se puede sintetizar en un laboratorio, se puede extraer de plantas o se encuentra en la secreción del Bufo Alvarius. Pero a nivel de experiencia, ¿cuál es la diferencia entre consumir la molécula sintetizada y la secreción del sapo?
On a phenomenological level, I don't experience a difference. So what I mean by that is when we have a full release, whether it's from the synthetic compound, an extracted compound, or the Bufo Alvarius, there is a full, seemingly absolute disruption of the egoic structure or the default mode network, our mind, our conscious self. When that is shut off, it doesn't matter how you got there or via what method or modality, it's the same. When your mind is off, your mind is off.
La medicina del sapo no solamente tiene la función de apagar el ego, sino trae otros componentes.
Y en el caso específico del veneno del sapo, del Bufo Alvarius, el 5-meo-DMT está acompañado de varios otros alcaloides.
Hasta el momento se han identificado 20 diferentes componentes en el gas del sapo. El yopo tiene 5-meo-DMT más NN-DMT más otras moléculas más.
Los cuales muchos de ellos son en pequeñas cantidades tóxicos, pero combinan de una manera específica con el 5-meo-DMT para generar un efecto específico de purga.
Por eso no solo es diferente, sino es imposible replicar estos efectos de forma simulada o artificial o química o manufacturada por el hombre.
Bufo Alvarius, it has this other effect that is not essential, but it is an entourage effect that surrounds the essence. And because it is unique to that creature, I tend to think of that as the spirit of the creature.
La molécula del 5-meo-DMT sintetizada y pura tiene la función mecánica en el cerebro de apagar el área donde radica el sentido de individualidad, o el ego. Por lo tanto, funde nuestra esencia con la fuente. Cuando se consume 5-meo-DMT sintético, no hay guía en la experiencia. El participante es su propio guía. Cada hojuela de secreción de sapo contiene diferentes componentes químicos. Es un cóctel preparado por la naturaleza, en el cual el 5-meo-DMT solo es una parte de la mezcla. Cuando se consume medicina de sapo, se percibe una cierta guía en la experiencia.
Con los extractos o el sintético, tú solo estás teniendo una molécula. Con el sapo y el yopo estás teniendo varias moléculas.
I would say it's spirit that comes from the nature as a gift to humans.
El espíritu del sapito es un espíritu amoroso.
El poder del sapo es espiritual, no carnal.
Este espíritu es un espíritu que es guía. Su naturaleza es guiar y guiar con amor.
Digamos que la medicina del sapo es una pizza de pepperoni y el 5-meo-DMT sintético es el pepperoni de la pizza. Ninguno es mejor, solo tienen sabores y enseñanzas distintas.
We're gonna do some toad. You in?
You're gonna do toad? What's the big deal? Let me tell you about it, stud. You'll get chills.
Otra de las confusiones más comunes respecto a esta medicina es la creencia de que se puede lamer un sapo.
We interrupt this program for a special announcement from your government.
A new threat has hopped onto the scene. Sick perverts are purveying giant Australian toads to our helpless youth.
¿Por qué chupas la rana?
Porque ahora quiero drogarme. Not as pets.
What? Oh no! I licked you!
These hopped up, cold-blooded amphibians ooze LSD.
No! It's a very distinct feeling. I feel psychedelic!
That's the same drug that made Art Linkletter's daughter jump out a window.
No, you don't lick toad. If you lick toad, you will die. You smoke the dried venom.
Yeah, when you use toad, it'll mess you up. It'll make your mama cry, that's no lie. You'll choke on your tongue and die, 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 die.
Otra terrible confusión es creer que la medicina del sapo se aplica en la piel frotando al espécimen. Algunos otros tipos de bufo tienen propiedades psicoactivas en los animales, pero ¿qué pasa si un animal lame un Bufo Alvarius?
Experts warn about a specific poisonous toad, the largest one in our state, might be a major threat for your pet.
Va saliendo del veterinario nuestro perrito, ya le habían dado caso terminal porque él chupó un sapo de los que salen aquí.
This toad is the second most toxic toad in the world.
Toads, not frogs. Let's give the devil his due here.
It seems to be a bit of a misunderstanding about the difference between toad and cambo.
Cambo, le quitan el veneno, lo ponen sobre una madera, se seca un poquito.
Two completely different species.
Esta varita es del Amazonas, dice que no duele, que ya está acostumbrado.
The cambo being from the Brazilian Amazon.
El efecto es instantáneo, que duele muchísimo. A los hombres se les aplica en el brazo y a las mujeres en la piel.
And the toad being from the Mexican Sonoran Desert. Completely different spirit energies. Cambo is more of a cleansing, detoxing, extremely powerful healing medicine, whereas toad is taken completely different. It is smoked.
La realidad es que solo existe una manera correcta para la aplicación de esta medicina, es vaporizando la medicina e inhalándola mediante la aplicación de calor.
¿Droga o medicina? Pues...
Well, for starters, I really dislike the word drugs. I think the word drugs is a blanket term that gets used on many different compounds with completely different effects. And it's actually a word of control that our governments and our societies use to put all these different compounds in the same baskets.
All my point is there's a lot of ways to look at the world. You know what I'm saying? Why pick the way you learn over TV? Because it's usually wrong.
Psychedelics, for example, are completely non-toxic and completely non-addictive. So they don't work in the same way as, say, a drug like cocaine or methamphetamine, which are addictive and very, physically toxic.
You ever see a good drug story on the news? Never. News is supposed to be objective, isn't it? Supposed to be the news. But every drug story is negative. Well, hold it. I've had some killer fucking times on drugs.
So the fact that we throw all these different compounds into one basket is rather unfortunate. But I think if you look historically at the kind of compounds that have been used at different cultures all around the world, the vast majority of compounds that shamans tend to use are psychedelic compounds, and they're generally non-toxic and non-addictive.
Let's hear the whole story. Same LSD story every time, and we've all heard it. Young man on acid thought he could fly, jumped out of a building. What a tragedy. What a dick. If he thought he could fly, why didn't he take off on the ground and check it out first?
Is the toad secretion medicine? Yes, I believe it is, in its approach. If one were to approach toad secretion as a recreational activity, it's not going to work out well.
To me, the toad has been, in personal sense, a tool, as well as the people that I'm currently working with has been a tool for them because it's something that they are utilizing together with their life experience.
And you wouldn't have to be necessarily sick or suffering, or even aware of your own suffering in order to approach this medicine.
The medicine is simply a tool, and a very useful tool, but only to be used as a pointer to uncover who I truly am.
You know, once you take this tool, you are able to kind of get out of your body and find another perspective of life. But at the end of the day, you still have to come back here, and with that experience of the tool is how are you going to run around now in your life?
It will find out what you need to do for yourself. The medicine will not heal you. You become aware of what you need to do to heal yourself.
Are you going to change something about the reason you first took the medicine? You know what I mean? It's not working internally for you. I mean, it's not all of a sudden going to heal a heartbreak that you had. You know what I mean? It's going to make you understand why it happened. Now you have to come back here, and in the new relationships you get into, use that experience you had to find better relationships in your life.
And to live from that space of truthfulness and authenticity, and to help and to support us together to awaken to this deeper reality.
My belief in psychedelics is that they're like microscopes or telescopes, and they're very potent tools for examining the role of the ego.
A facilitator or shaman or whatever, or however you would like to term it, they're not the ones that are healing you either. The toad secretion allows one to become aware of what they need to do to heal themselves.
Absolutely a good tool to treat addiction and its root causes. So I see addiction as a symptom of greater issues in someone's life. For example, trauma, whether it be experiential or multi-generational trauma. And Bufo has the unique ability to express or shine a light or awaken experiences that have been repressed.
And then they are presented with a choice to follow that direction or to attempt to return to the previous version of their humanity that they were prior to consuming the medicine.
What they really do is they examine our psyche, and to a certain extent they examine our soul. So I would say that if any kind of medicines, they're medicines of the psyche and the soul.
In this sense, the processes of preparation before taking the medicine and integration afterwards are very critical for someone to have a quote-unquote successful experience, where they come away saying, that was not fearful, that was not something that damaged me. I am now a more complete version of myself than I have ever been.
So that hopefully they can over time recover. But I don't see it as not either a cure for addiction or even addiction is the problem. Addiction is the indicator that there are underlying problems.
I think the problem we see today is things like ayahuasca and the God molecule and all of these things that stimulate that powerful source, that essence of who we are. If people do this 7 times a day, if they do it once a week, boy, that's a lot. These are the things that happen to you when you're born and when you die. And now you're going to do it every day? Like, this is powerful medicine. Are you trying to dilute it or make yourself numb to it? If you're really trying to hear it, you have to act with wisdom. Best if you have a teacher, a guru, or shaman, rather than you just go self-medicate. So, you know, an overview of the toad community, there are a lot of people becoming more and more interested in toad. There are neo-shamans popping up, you know, taking the superficial, you know, impact of what this, you know, this medicine does to people without maybe understanding it fully themselves and taking it out to other places, you know, for other reasons more than, you know, the historical, you know, medicinal sacredness, you know, without money being a factor. And now in our age where things are getting more desperate around the planet and people get more desperate, they do desperate things like maybe pulling up this thing, you know, out of its roots and taking it places without fully even knowing it, understanding it, and then promoting it and selling it, which is a concern. That might be the dark side of the toad.
I mean, you know, if all of a sudden tomorrow everybody's enlightened, then I guess the toad will be fine. But if things keep going the way that they're going, but from seeing the explosion on the scene and from seeing what's happened with other naturally occurring entheogens, especially on the Mexican side of the border, where the vast majority of entheogens occur on the planet Earth. Yeah, I mean, things go down the tube real quick, and the toad is a delicate species. It's not even a plant, it's an animal.
Hay un hongo que se llama el hongo quitrídico, que es un hongo que viene de Europa, que acabó con una cantidad grandísima de especies anfibias en Sudamérica. Básicamente es un hongo que les daña la piel y los mata a los sapitos. Y bueno, debido a que la gente ha estado manipulando los sapos, y hay gente que ha venido de de otras partes, de otros continentes, pues pasa exactamente lo que pasó, por ejemplo, en los tiempos de la conquista, donde llegan bacterias nuevas, virus nuevas, y los individuos que no han tenido los anticuerpos necesarios, por así decirlo, son muy vulnerables. Y tenemos la noticia de que el hongo quitrídico, que es un hongo que les hace mucho daño, que los mata, que puede extinguirlos, ya está en algunas áreas del desierto de Sonora.
So I'm here in Tucson in Arizona working on what we call the Toad Conservation Project. We've been liaising with herpetologists who are amphibian experts, and they are concerned about the rise of a fungus called chytrid, which is prevalent throughout the world, and it is been proven to be in some bioregions where the Bufo Alvarius lives, especially around Arizona, and it can kill the toads. And with increased handling of people, with the increased awareness of the Bufo Alvarius toad and the sacred medicine that it contains, many Westerners are coming in search of the toad, so we're just concerned to help test for the virus.
So what we're looking for here is we're doing a swab on the Bufo Alvarius toad. We're just checking, we get these swabs sampled by a lab in Texas.
This is some of the best practices. We wear latex gloves, so when we're touching the toad, we're not spreading any virus or anything on our hands, and we're doing some conservation work here with some swabs. The fungus can actually kill the toads. It pollutes and seals up their skin is how they breathe, and it can kill them, and then they can spread it through their bioregion. So if people are coming toading, they can be spreading the virus, so we want to protect the toads, and we also want to let people know, while we don't necessarily condone the milking of the toads, in countries where it is legal, that is okay, but if they are handling toads, there's best practices both to not spread the virus and also maybe to only milk the first two parotoid glands at the top. The herpetologists have told us that basically the venom of the toad is connected not just for protection, it's part of its immune system. So if you're milking too much venom from the toad, you could be damaging its ability to survive that season and to continue the breeding cycle.
Todavía no se ha esparcido a niveles grandes, el sapo no está en peligro de extinción. En los lugares donde han hecho granjas sí la están pasando mal, pero aquí lo más importante es que entendamos que tenemos que trabajar con mucho respeto. Uno piensa que los sapos nos pueden contaminar a nosotros, pero en realidad tendríamos que hacer conciencia que las personas que están manipulando a los sapos traen virus, hongos, bacterias, y al estarlos agarrando tú no sabes lo que les estás pasando.
Is it always wrong and misguided to work with an enlightened man? How do you know who is enlightened? How do you know? Would you kindly ask? How do you know? By his looks? Because people call him enlightened? Or he himself calls himself that he is enlightened? If he calls himself enlightened, then you may be assured that he is not enlightened.
First, I want to say that I'm nobody, so my words, I don't even know if they have any value. But as my understanding is, there is no such thing as a healer or a shaman, medicine woman or medicine man.
Calling themselves lords, great, giving themselves titles, and doing a lot of mischief.
We are just channels who help these to meet people. And we are channels and to make a container, a place, a safe place, and the surroundings and the feeling for the people who receive it, and to be there for the people in the process beforehand and afterhand, to integrate the healing. The work itself is done by the spirit of these sacred gifts.
So we're talking about the medicine, 5-MeO and toad, and you take it and you have that amazing experience that's kind of indescribable. And what do you do after having that experience, after the enlightenment?
The notion of change with taking these medicines, toad secretion in particular, is that I have changed. Now I am a different human being. You have not changed. You have become more of what you already are. Those in your life, those co-workers, loved ones, family members, they may perceive you as changing or being a different human being. And this can cause strained relationships. It can also enhance current relationships and create new ones. But it's important to be aware of not necessarily a risk, more of an effect. This notion of preparation prior to consuming the medicine, I believe anyone approaching this for the first time or for the 50th time should be aware of this. And those in their immediate surroundings should also be aware of this. I believe preparation is equally, if not more important than integration.
So you have to remember, this is a tool that you've been given. I mean, the question is, how do you want to utilize it? We have many tools around us, but if you're not able to use those tools, your life is not going to change. So this is a lifestyle change. You have to come back after your experience and use the experience to live a better life.
Well, assuming you kind of got through that experience and came back from that experience with familiarity or an understanding or actually, conscious of that enlightenment, assuming that, then what do you do after that? Well, it goes back probably to the wisdom traditions. You continue to chop wood, carry water. You continue to do your dharma. And if you've done this toad experience, the God molecule, and you've had that experience, you come back and you're more aware of your dharma, what it is you're doing here in this world, in this life. And you recognize that this is all a drama, being played out, and who you really are is your spirit self, your Atma. And that Dharma now is enlightened. You've had this toad experience. You see what this is all about. It's about the divine, about God, about something more. It's about love. The first manifestation of God is love. And if you've passed through this experience and you've gotten to the light, to the divine, you've had to pass through that realm of love, which is the easiest thing we humans can relate to. And that's what you bring back. So you chop wood, carry water, and now you do it maybe more consciously with love.
So before you took the medicine, it's not like you weren't living. No, you were living. You just weren't living happily, or you weren't living connected. So now you're connected. So now how do you want to use this tool to live a better life?
Este universo dual se rige por polaridades, y nunca en la historia conocida por la humanidad, el ser humano se había encontrado en un momento de mayor enfermedad y desconexión como el que vivimos hoy. Del tamaño del mal que estamos enfrentando, es el remedio que se nos ha presentado.